Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to United vs. Everybody. I am your host, Sean. Sorry for being just a hot second late. I was watching a really good clip, actually, United View put out on their Twitter account. They had a doctor or a surgeon come in to explain in detail the nature of Lisandro Martinez's cruciate injury, the procedure to fix it, and the recovery time, and why it takes 6 to 9 months. So it does sound like it's probably going to take 6 to 9 months. So really good, interesting little clip. Go check that out. I'm not going to rehash it for you, but will suffice it to say it does sound like we cannot plan on him maybe until middle of next season. So we will see how that goes. But welcome back, everybody. What we got going on here? Neil, welcome back. Players done, every manager after Sir Alex Ferguson retired. Yeah, it is. Neil says nothing new here. I guess that's it. We can end the stream then, right? Now we're here, obviously, to talk a little bit about some of the news that's come out in the last 24 hours or so. It is a Man United news roundup. We've got some reports coming out today that the players are already supposedly losing faith in Ruben Amorim. So we're here because I want your thoughts on that. I want to know what you guys think because, like Neil says, it's not the first time we've heard this story. Now, whether or not that's to do with the players or whether or not that's to do with the media, we're going to discuss that today. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about a few transfer rumors as well, some odds and ends, as always. That is what we do here on the News Roundup show. So get involved, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss out on any late breaking content. And then if you want to figure out and learn new ways that you can get a little bit more involved in the channel, go check out the membership perks. You can get involved in scouting reports. You can get involved in the topics that we discuss here. Go check those out. A lot of fun little odds and ends for you guys in there. So let's get stuck in. So obviously, probably a lot of us have already seen. I don't know if you've seen this article, and I use the term article loosely here because I'm being very generous, but it's coming from Chris Wheeler. Whose name I literally think translates from the French of grain of salt, if I have to be honest with you. Pretty sure I saw that on Duolingo. Remember, this was the guy who claimed that Kobbie Mainoo was holding out for $200K a week from United, and that's why we haven't signed a new contract. So again, I'm not saying guys automatically already wrong about everything, but I'm saying that's what I'm saying. So Rob, welcome back, my friend. Player update on EAFC, but no Obi or Heaven at United. Interesting. I have not seen any player updates since a couple days ago. Did they do another one? No, I haven't seen anything since the 14th. So anyway, Chris Wheeler wrote a piece this morning in Daily Mail claiming that some players in the United squad are losing faith in Ruben Amorim's system. He writes that the players do support Amorim, but their confidence in his system is, quote, starting to ebb. He goes on to say it is understood the disaffected group believe that even when United win a match, it is largely down to individual moments of quality or good fortune rather than a tactical triumph. Again, he says the feeling is we got away with one, but we might not be so lucky next time. And that apparently is coming from the hard source of one dressing room source. And this is why I start to get frustrated. You guys know how I feel about these reports. You know how I feel about rumors. When the source is it is understood or one dressing room source or sources report, you guys know that I automatically halfway kind of tune it out. Again, we're here to discuss it. I'm not here to say I believe it or I don't necessarily believe it all like 100%. I'm just saying I need some more substantial sources than just it is understood or one dressing room source. To me, that's a little iffy. Rob says, not sure who's leaking this stuff or whether it's the journo just writing trash. I mean, who knows at this point? He says, Betty the tea lady. Don't diss the tea lady, right? You guys always got to treat the tea lady with respect because she knows everything. But what are your thoughts on what Chris Wheeler has written today? Again, context, it is coming off the back of a loss that saw Amorim draw more criticism from the usual suspects in the media, like Lahore, Henry Winters going in on him. Honestly, Henry Winters not in my good graces these days after that Rashford. It just seems like, again, after the negativity, we do get a lot of pile on because the media does like to pile on after, a loss, especially. Well, I mean, they basically said he's stubborn. Lahore going in on United? No, I was just as shocked as you, right? But the criticism of where we are right now as a club, where we are right now in the league right now, it's not unwarranted. It's just a lot of it is just rehashed, a lot of it is just generic, and a lot of it is just opinion that gets turned into things, gets rehashed and rehashed. Like we spoke yesterday about the reports, for instance, that we were looking at Victor Osimhen and everything, that we might be going head to head for PSG. Talk Sport talks about that rumor. And now, because TalkSport talked about that rumor after the fact, all these other sources are now quoting TalkSport as a source for the Osimhen. This is how the media works. It's just, it all goes round and round and round. It's like getting stuck on a roundabout. But again, like I said, the criticism isn't entirely unwarranted in terms of where we are right now. This is currently our worst season in forever. 12 losses this season is our worst since the 70s. Opta is reading a little article on Opta. So apparently Opta's supercomputer calculates that we have just a 9% chance of finishing in the top half of the table. Like I said yesterday, I've given up on top half of the table hopes, well, as far back as maybe November. There was a time earlier on when I was like, well, it is still early. The points is still close. There was a time when we were 4 points off top 4. The points difference between like the top 10 and the top 4 was not that, but since it's just we've not been able to string results together, and you can't do that if you want to have any hope of finishing in the top half of the table. I mean, even looking at the performances, and not just the statistics, it doesn't get any better. I mean, it's not good reading. So Opta has this expected points model, right? To tell you based on what you've been doing, based on expected goals, expected assists, chances creation, all this stuff, how many points you should have according to their model. But even then, we should only be in 14th, and we're not in 14th. So it's not like we're doing well. As far as XG goes, we're actually the worst in the league when it comes to underperforming our XG. I think we're more than 8 below where we should be according to our XG. So it's not great. And it's not necessarily on Amorim. No, he does share a portion of the responsibility for those recent results, like I've said a couple times now. I don't think his comment about this being the worst United side in history, I don't think that helped. In fact, I think it only added fuel to the fire. Now, he's not saying anything we don't know. It's not saying anything we don't believe, or it's not saying anything we're not saying amongst ourselves. It's just maybe he's just got a little bit of a learning curve to realize that when you're at United, the scrutiny, the magnifying glass, everything you say or do is going to be just twisted, taken out of context. It's going to be magnified to the nth degree, and maybe he just needs to learn. Now, he's not the most. He has a friendly personality. He is very approachable, but in terms of the way you have to go about engaging with the media at a club like Sporting versus at a club like United, it's night and day difference. And so maybe he's got an opportunity there to learn. Okay, maybe like they're not just it's not the same. I'm not saying he's doing anything wrong. I'm just saying you have to maybe change your tacks a little bit at United. That's just the way it is. It's not fair. I'm not saying I like it. It's just the way it is. But again, United have finished outside of the top 4 6 times in the last 10 years. We've also sacked 6 managers during that time as well. And I say all that to say in all this time, we've also seen these same sort of articles written about each and every manager that's come and gone. 6 managers in just like a decade, and now we've seen this article again. Mo, welcome, my friend. Good to see you. How are you doing today? Get involved in the chat. So it's just, again, it's one of those rinse and repeat kind of situations, and it's frustrating. I worry about Amorim. I worry maybe was it the wrong decision not to appoint him, maybe the wrong timing to bring him in November. Again, it's kind of up for opinion, up for debate. Should we have waited, maybe stuck with Ruud for the rest of the season and hired Amorim in the summer? Not because of performances, but I'm saying maybe that would have put a more of a cleaner, more fresher start, maybe offered a more productive start. Maybe he would have had a preseason, got a couple more of his players instead of coming in midseason and really kind of now having a bit of a stain on his tenure to start as a United manager. Do you think the players are downing tools, or are they just crap? If they are downing tools, is it because of Amorim's system, or maybe they're just, maybe like the rest of us, maybe they just thought, okay, season's done since November, nothing to play for. Why do we have to give 100%? We've seen that happen before as well. We've seen that happen many, many times over the years when top 4 is out of the picture. We've noticed that the performances and the effort and the body language take a downward spiral. So it's a little bit, lather, rinse, repeat a little bit. Mo, bro, we also run a channel called Football Banter. Interesting. We can talk. Oops, sorry. We can talk, man, but we will try not to plug the channels on the live chat if possible. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Neil thinks it's both that they're downing tools and they're crap, both that they're downing tools because of Amorim or the system is or the season's over. Yes to everything. I don't know. But again, we've seen these articles before. We've seen this performance from the players before. It's hard to argue that something's just not right. But the players, again, they were doing this for Ten Hag. They've done this for Ragnick. They've done this for Ollie, Jose, Louis Van Gaal, David Moyes. The players do this. And so it's easy to look at that and say they have lost faith in Amorim, but do you really want a squad of players who give up after just a couple months? The fan base, are we really giving up after a couple months as a fan base? I mean, I knew, and either way you look at it, and it feels a little bit, like I said, rinse and repeat journalism or rinse and repeat behavior from the squad. I'll let you guys decide. No worries, Mo. It's all good, man. Just trying to, keep it professional. That's all. Yeah, if you want to collab or do anything, you reach out to me. There's an email in the description. It's unitedstatesofunited@gmail.com. That's the best way to get at me, or find me on Twitter. Not a big deal, my friend. No worries. Lionheart's big up, man. How are you this morning? Good to see you. Mo says, what are your thoughts on the fan base going crazy for not playing the academy players versus Spurs? I personally think it's the wrong environment to introduce them. Our fan base is toxic right now. Well, yesterday, Mo, and you can go check out this video too. We did the match reaction yesterday to the Spurs match. We talked about a lot of that. We talked about the academy players, talked about the youngsters. I've got my thoughts. A lot of people have their thoughts. It's a difficult one, right? Because we had a squad, honestly, of an 11 that really should have done something more from that game, personally. Obviously, the bench was pretty much all youngsters. And Lindelof, I didn't have a problem with necessarily playing or not playing the youngsters. Like, I get it. The problem was, if you're going to bring on Cheeto and you're going to use the reasoning as he could get it on, all it takes is one long ball and he can score, then I probably would have preferred him to come on like 10 minutes earlier, personally, if that was the plan. Because despite the loss, like I said in the video yesterday, we actually looked very good moving forward, particularly Xerxes, particularly the long passes and things. And we were able to sustain pressure and wave after wave of attack for decent spells, including, those last final 10 minutes. We couldn't quite get that final ball. So if that's the mentality, Cheeto just needs one, like a good long ball to get, he could have made a difference then, in my opinion. I'm not saying he definitely would have. I'm saying based on Amorim's reasoning, I would have maybe preferred that a little earlier. But yes, you're right. There's a lot toxic, and we talked about that yesterday as well, that this club right now, there's the poison, the rot, the toxicity. It's deep. It's not as simple as changing a manager, signing some players, changing owners. The rot is deep. Anybody who comes to this club is immediately infected, whether it's a manager or a player. And when they leave the club, they go on and do just fine. So there's something off at this club. I wish I could definitely point the finger of where it is. Maybe it's just one of those things where it's been allowed to go that deep for too long. Maybe it's at a point where it isn't reversible. Maybe it's at a point where it's like the road to back is just really, really, really long. And it's really going to be up to fans and players and coaches and whoever to decide if they're patient enough for that, because it's rough. I gave that analogy yesterday of like a broken arm that you didn't go to get surgery for. Like, it kind of heals. It doesn't heal properly, and it's still going to cause problems. In order to heal it, you got to re-break it. And then that you got to go through a proper healing process all over again. Like, we have to break it down to its studs right now. We have to start all over again. So we will see. Mo says there's some deep voodoo shit happening. There's something. I mean, I wish I had like some sort of inside scoop, some sort of in the know. I wish I had some sort of psychic ability to look at that and say, that's what's going on. Like, there's so much. It might not always, like most things in life, it might not just be one thing. It might be just a collection of a lot of little things that have just been allowed to accumulate and accumulate. It's like sweeping stuff under the rug. Eventually, that pile of stuff under the rug is so big and it's grown so large that you're moving shit around, you're tripping over it. You have to stop at some point, lift the rug up and clean it properly, or else it's just going to kill you, man. Leinart says, we did look good sometimes. We were lucky that Spurs were technically shit. Yeah. Spurs, I mean, they were fitter than us. They were overloading us in numbers and forcing us and pinning us back a lot. I think it didn't help that Garnacho was a little selfish, like I said. Bruno's positioning at times was not great, which is a detriment to him. That's why I kind of always not really liked him in the pivot, but right now it's needs must. We don't have a choice. Xerxes had a good game. We just we had to be a little better in the final third because otherwise I saw a lot that I liked. But yeah, we talked about that yesterday. Go ahead and check out that video. What was this? Garnacho needs to do better. His decision making is complete dross. He should have finished that. Garnacho could have done a lot of different things. He could have done better to pick out Højlund. He could have done better with that shot. He's could have found Dorgu a couple more times on those overlaps. He was just completely ignoring Dorgu. Garnacho was frustrating me, but it is what it is. So, Neil says top to bottom is a mess. Yeah, everything top to bottom, inside out, x-axis, z-axis, y, all of it is just it's hard to know where it's like. Again, it's like going to a house that needs to be completely like where do you start? It's just where do you start, man? So on this article though about the squad and everything and these players kind of fed up. Again, get your thoughts in. But the stupid punditry that we've seen following the Spurs match, it doesn't help. And again, I'm talking about guys like Ekban Lahore, Gary Neville, frustrating the shit out of me. Stephen Warnock, I don't really have time for Stephen Warnock, but again, the guy just his takes are just freaking stupid. Calling Amorim stubborn, instead of calling it stubborn, we call it like it is, trying to instill a new system into the club and the squad, new mentality, a new culture, and it's gonna take time. And doing this is gonna show us on the pitch who can handle it and who can't. It's gonna take time. It's definitely gonna take more than 3 months because we're changing everything. This is literally the first time that we're trying to do a proper cultural rebuild, systemic rebuild. The first time since I can't even remember, because we just haven't had that at this club. Other clubs are doing it, and other clubs are well along in their project, whether that's Liverpool, Arsenal, City. Obviously, have been doing it for like 10 years. It's going to take time. If you can't be patient and admit to yourself that it's going to take time and there are going to be setbacks and we are going to have some short-term pain right now, then you might just need to go hit yourself on the head, go into a coma for a year or so, and then you can wake up maybe when things are hopefully better. But I don't know what to tell you. If you can't come along for the ride, for the journey, all the ups and downs that entails, then I don't know what to tell you. It's only going to make it that much better to go through all that. You can't just wake up when things are good. Gary Neville, again, his analysis is about as deep as a fucking puddle. I mean, questioning playing Casemiro. What are we supposed to do? We all four of our starting midfielders pull up injured midweek. Collier, Ugarte, Mainu, Eriksson was sick as well. Like, we had no choice to play anyone but Casemiro. And like I said, I rattled off Casemiro's number. He didn't have a bad game yesterday. He can't be the deepest defensive midfielder anymore. He doesn't have the legs, but he can do other things. And he did those things yesterday. He won the most duels in the match, Casemiro. Like, it just is what it is. And again, I don't need to address Stephen Warnock. The guy's an absolute melt. The problem is that a lot of this is on the players as well. If Sporting can go on an unbeaten run in their league, can win all these trophies since Amorim showed up at the club when they weren't winning a whole lot before that. If they can turn around and come back at halftime to beat City in the Champions League with lesser players on paper, you look at that Sporting squad and you say, comparatively speaking to United, we should be better. If they can do what they're doing in that same system in the Champions League as well, then like, why can't we do it? It's the players. The players in this club have zero technical, like footballing IQ. They've got no mentality. And we've seen it for years. A lot of these players can only play counterattack. Now, I've said the other day after the Spurs match, and I said it a couple times now, I think we need to take advantage of that counterattack a little more frequently because we do look good. We saw it against Spurs. We saw a little bit more of it against Leicester. Our players do have that. We cannot play as a hold-up side. We cannot play this slow build-up side. We need to take advantage of this a little bit better. And we're seeing a lot more of that, whether that's a system thing or whether that's just kind of reverting to type. I couldn't tell you, but we do need to find a way to balance that out personally. Lionheart says, Garnacho needs to start scoring to get that big money move. Garnacho needs to get, in my opinion, goals, assists out of his brain, and he needs to think about everything else. He needs to see the bigger picture and not go into this Rashford route where he's got tunnel vision, wherever he gets the ball. Like Garnacho reminds me a lot of Rashford. He reminds me of, horses, race horses. They have the little blinders so they can really own. That's what it reminds me of. As soon as they get the ball, that's all he's thinking about is like, I got to go in, I got to cut in on my right, and I got to take a shot. Rashford's been doing the same thing for 10 years. I've said it before. We don't have wingers at this club. We haven't had wingers at this club in years. We have inverted forwards who want to cut in and shoot. Anthony, Garnacho, Rashford. That's just as what it is. Strikers have been suffering at this club for years. Mo says, honestly, managerial advice from Gary Neville, this should be a non-bailable offense. Yeah, some of Gary Neville's takes, I mean, just, they're frustrating. Rob says, Neville is a disgrace. Sky should drop him. I saw some stuff the other day that there's some people calling for him to be dropped from United's matches. Now, I feel like we should be dropping a lot of people from United commentary then, because even if you watch, like I spoke yesterday, as I was watching the game, like one of the commentators, I don't remember who it was, they were watching Matthias Tell, and they literally, the commentators like, oh, he's making all these runs, but his teammates just aren't finding him. Like, I'm like, literally, that's what Højlund's been doing all season, and we're not finding him. Why is it when Højlund's not getting the service, it's Højlund's fault, but when Tell's not getting the service, it's Tell's, like, it's his teammates that are at fault? Like, again, the agenda is real, folks. Mo says, I was one of the opinion that Garnacho should have been sold. We don't sell well. We didn't sell Lingard, Rashford at the right time. Yeah, not selling Lingard was a weird one for me personally. I feel like that the club just, back then, the club just had this weird thing about trying to get the most. They thought that they were protecting the value of their assets by renewing contracts, and then we still end up losing these players for free anyway. It just, again, these are supposed to be people that are good at business, guys like Woodward and whatever, but they're just complete idiots. These are the people that have been making the most important decisions at this club for well over a decade now, and this is why we're in the situation that we're in right now. So very, very frustrating. But Lionheart says, my take is that not every player will leave next season, so when he gets his players in the summer, who will be able to play in his system, the players who stayed will also be up to standard. Well, we're trying. If we keep going back to the way these players are comfortable, this counterattack, this bullshit, and I don't have a problem with counterattacks. I don't like it as your system, because to me, counterattacking is not a system. That's the lack of, like, tactics, in my opinion. But you can counterattack when the opportunity's on. We did really well against Spurs. We played well to get over that line. They overloaded us in numbers. They got a high line. We did well. We did exactly what we needed to do. We just couldn't get that final ball down. And that's down to decision making and finishing, and that kind of stuff can get better. But I liked what I saw. But yeah, hopefully we can make some sales this summer. Hopefully we can get Rashford, Anthony, Malacia. Eriksen's going to be gone. Lindelof's probably going to be gone. Now, we're not going to get money for them, but we're getting those wages off the books. That's about $270K a week from Lindelof and Eriksen alone. If we can get Casemiro out of here too, that'll save us a lot of money. We've got this preseason tour that we're going to talk about a little bit. That's going to bring in like 10 mil. We'll probably see one or two academy players get sold, and I know a lot of people are not going to like that. But again, not every academy player that comes through is going to be good enough for the Premier League, let alone United, for any number of reasons. This doesn't mean they're bad. They're still in like a 0.001% of footballers and make it to this league. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's levels to that. But we will get money for that as well. And so I'm not too worried. We just have to be proactive. We need to start planning now. Like I said yesterday, we have players who aren't part of the plans. We need to start pushing them now, telling their agents to start getting buyers now so we can know what we're working with. We need to start being active about getting these players out the door instead of just being put over a barrel for this, because this is ridiculous. Because we need money, and not only for PSR, but just we need to strengthen. And we're burning the candle at both ends in that regard. We got to avoid PSR, but we also have to strengthen, because we're going to be losing money too. If we fail to get Champions League football again, Adidas is going to pull some funds, and that's not going to help either. Usman, welcome back, my friend. Good to see you. Hope everybody's doing well in your neck of the woods. So Lionheart says 10 mil, so that will cover Casemiro. That won't cover Casemiro. Casemiro's wages are about 17 million a year. This is why I said a couple months back, like, the cost of just terminating the contract versus continuing to pay him, like, we're not going to get them enough money. Every year we keep Casemiro, it's just more money we've got to pay. And again, Casemiro and Pogba are two chapters that could be put in a textbook about what not to do as a football club. It just is what it is. It just can't score goals. It's problems for any team, not just United. Yeah, and again, we're not scoring enough goals. Like I said, we're underachieving our XG by about almost 9 goals. Now, a lot of people will look at a lack of goals and they'll immediately look at strikers, but that's just, to me, that's an oversimplification. That doesn't mean that the attackers can't be improving, but it's not just down to the attackers. That's like that's why I don't like clean sheets as a measurement for goalkeepers, because there's so much more that goes into that than just a clean sheet. You could have two keepers, one makes 20 saves in a match and one doesn't have to make any save, and both of them have a clean sheet. Which one was better on the day? Like, I don't like clean sheets as a measuring stick for keepers. I don't like looking at strikers as the reason why goals aren't being scored. Like, I keep bringing it up. Like, if you look back at a game a few months back for the pass map, like I showed you guys, Hoyland never got the ball that game. He was not getting the ball at all. Now, you could say why that is, but I'm just looking at the fact that he wasn't getting the ball. It wasn't until recently that he and Licha were kind of linking up a little bit. But once we stopped playing Hoyland like a hold-up striker recently, shit happens. He won a corner early on yesterday. Sunday. Vishwa, welcome back. How are you doing? Might get 2 to 3 players in the summer that will probably be midfielders. That mid needs stability. Bruno is Pirlo. Honestly, like I've said, if a Saudi club wants to come back in for Bruno this summer and is willing to give us like 60, 70, 80 mil, take it. Same with Onana. I'm done with Onana. We're going to talk a little bit about Onana in the Everton preview. Probably going to do that Friday because I got PFA class tomorrow, so I'm not, or Thursday, maybe tomorrow, but probably Friday, because I might be waiting for the press conference, but we'll see. But big up, Vishwa. Good to see you again. Lionheart says, I agree with Casso. It's not his fault that United agreed to pay him that crazy money and would definitely not take a pay cut. Fair play to that. I'm not blaming Cass for anything. This is all on the club. The same with Pogba. I don't blame players for transfer fees. I don't blame Anthony or Harry Maguire at all for transfer fees. It's not their fault. They have no say. That's the people, like the kind of fees that we paid and the kind of wages that we've given people. That's a sackable offense in itself from the club perspective, not the player. Fair play to the player and his agent for getting that up, but at the same time, I do put a little bit more pressure on player for the wages because in that same sentence, you're the one who pushed for that and negotiated that, so you're the one who needs to deliver as far as the wages are concerned. But yeah, nobody in their right mind is, if they were in Casemiro's shoes. I've seen so many people give Casemiro shit after that interview. Like, if he truly loved, he would just leave. He's happy to take a wage. Yeah, so would you. There are so many people who would, in Casemiro's shoes, just sit here. And Casemiro wants to play. It's not like he's just kicking his feet up or whatever. He wants to play. It's not his fault that he doesn't necessarily suit the system. It just is what it is. But if no club is coming in to buy him and he's still getting paid, and honestly, right now we have an injury crisis, he has to play. Like, he's not going anywhere. And I dare any fan out there to say that they would do anything different. If you would say that, then you are either way more noble than me or you're a complete full of shit, because no one's going to do that. Neil says Onana is a poor goalkeeper. I am so frustrated with Onana. We talked about that in the match review. And Onana, he's not confident. He's glued to his line. And my biggest issue with him in the Spurs match, again, and I called it out when it happened, how many times have we conceded because when he tries to make a shot, or tries to make a save, he doesn't collect the ball, he doesn't catch the ball, he doesn't smother it. He parries it right back in front of him. And part of this, I blame the defenders too, because they're all just standing there while the opponent continues the play. No one's like, who lost track of Madison? I think that was De Ligt. But Onana has to stop doing that. His shot stopping is getting worse and worse and worse. And it's all mental. Onana makes a mistake. He can't shake it. And then he carries that into the next match, and it just builds. It was like Hoyland against Fulham, I think it was. It was that first couple bad touches. You could see it was getting frustrating for him, and he kept getting worse. He kept getting worse. These players need to hire some mentality coaches. Hoyland needs to hire a striking coach. Onana needs to learn how to forget shit and move on. What does Ted Lasso say? Goldfish, be a goldfish. Like, he's got to move on. It's getting really annoying watching Onana do this shit all the time. We've conceded like 3 goals in the last month or so because of that parrying right back into the danger zone, not being able to just collect that ball. It's fucking annoying, man. Sorry for swearing. I was willing to be patient, especially early this season with Onana because of what we were seeing. He was making some terrific saves. But he's just, for a 28-year-old, was he 27, 28 now? Like, I can't handle that anymore. I said, like, do I need to do a goalkeeper transfer target video? Like I said, if a Saudi club comes in for Onana, sell him, stick with Bindier, stick with VTech for a season, let them fight it out, and then we'll reassess it in the summer. But it's so annoying. Goals for George. Did you see Osimhen scoring 2 headers yesterday? Lethal. Yeah. Like, we're going to talk a little bit about Osimhen because we spoke a little bit about that yesterday on the News Roundup show too, about how we're reportedly head-to-head with PSG for Osimhen. Personal terms are reportedly not a big deal. A lot of people are quoting this release clause, which, again, I think United fans have really short memories. I'm not trying to be critical of anybody in particular. Like, the same with Dean Howson at Bournemouth. Why are people clamoring over a release clause? A, the fee for Osimhen's release clause is much more than I'd want to spend. And B, we're skint. We can't pay a release clause. You have to pay a release clause all at once. This is what happened with Xerxes. He had a release clause. The fee we agreed was a little more because we can amortize that and spread it out over a number of years. And you'll make money. We looked at Sancho's deal. If we sold Sancho over the summer, we'll make money on that because of the way that contract is broken down. So, and again, a lot of people don't know that. I'm not saying I'm a genius. It's just, you just got to read a little bit more. But yeah, Osimhen, he is a big, like, a danger in the box. The question is, would we create enough chances for him at United? And again, that's why it's not as simple as a striker. It's everyone else around the striker that's got to improve as well. Goals said Martial did not leave. Jones stayed there for years, but people have an agenda against Casemiro, who's being professional. I mean, agenda is gonna agenda. I've said that many times on the channel. If people have an agenda against players, it is what it is. That's a human nature thing with a lot of things. A lot of people can't get over the cognitive dissonance. They get so entrenched in their own opinions. They don't want to look wrong. They don't want to look foolish. They don't want to, like, admit, like, okay, maybe I jumped the gun. That they just ignore any evidence that doesn't support their opinion, and that's when it does become an agenda. You see it against Højlund. You see it against the Bruno versus Pogba thing was so weird for the longest time. Like, I don't get it. You still see it with Ten Hag. Like, yeah, Ten Hag had to go, but you can't deny the guy won 2 trophies. And if you look at his stats for the first season or so, he was actually better than guys like Arteta and Klopp in many different metrics. So it is what it is, but agenda is going to agenda. You know how I feel about that. Lionheart says, I don't think Onana is a poor keeper. He just doesn't look confident at United. It's so frustrating. Again, mentality. And that's been the thing. That's what I said. It comes back to mentality for a lot of these players. Maybe if it is the pressure of United, then he can't be here. That's just the way it is, because that lack of mentality under those Old Trafford lights, that lack of mentality, that lack of resilience to get over a mistake, if that's what's going to continue to snowball and escalate and cause mistakes and errors and cause us to concede stupid goals like that one against Spurs, then he's got to go, because now his detriments are costing us points. And I'm not trying to single out Onana. I'm saying this goes for any player. If your detriments on the pitch are causing us problems, then you need to not be played. This is why Casemiro has been dropped. It's not an agenda, but Casemiro, the role that, and again, a lot of it does have to do with the role that we're asking him to play in this particular double pivot. Double pivot for Amorim is a lot different than double pivot for, like, Ten Hag or Jose Mourinho. A double pivot for those other managers, you're sitting a little deeper. You're not being asked to move around as much. In Amorim's system, it does demand a little bit more movement. It does demand a little bit more up and down the pitch, more energy. And Casemiro just can't do that. It just is what it is. He's never really been that kind of a player. Even at Madrid, he sat in the base of a 4-3-3. His job is just to win the ball, find Kroos, find Modric, and that's it. And again, it's the same with Højlund. We can't ask Casemiro to be this mobile defensive force the same way we can't ask Højlund to be this hold-up striker. That's never been his game. It just is what it is. And so it's part of it is system, part of it is player. I get it. Vishwa says Casemiro would work in a 3 mid, but 2 is not suitable. Yeah, and again, it's about systems. It is what it is. Danny B, big up, my guy. Hope you're doing well. Did you avoid the snow? Let me know how everyone is doing. Rob says, according to MEN, well, I can stop reading there. I'm just joking. According to MEN, Johan Eriksson will be back for Everton game, but Ugarte Collier not expected back until Ipswich. Well, I saw a little blurb that so what they're referring to is that Amorim has said that he's hopeful that Euro and Eriksson will be back. So we'll see if they will be. They were both ill, I think. So it really just depends on if they've had enough time to train, and if their bodies are back up. Because I was sick for a little bit. You guys know, after I got back from Manchester last month, my body was not hanging. I didn't work out for like a week, which bugs me, but it is what it is. Vishwa says, don't think a big name number 9 is coming in the summer. Well, we'll see. I do think we need a better, like an older, more experienced striker, but I also don't think that the solution is just getting a striker, if that makes sense. It's both and kind of a situation. Bexy, welcome back. Good to see you. It's been a little minute. United struggled for 80 minutes against Southampton at home. United need to act like a big club rapidly. Yeah, we did struggle. I was at that match. It was not fun. The best part of that match, honestly, as great as Ahmad's late hat trick was, the best part of that match was, because I was very close to the away end. The best part was listening to Southampton fans give us the big one for 80 minutes, and then nothing. You could hear a pin drop from him in the last 10 minutes. It was great. The moment he scored that equalizer, they got a little quiet, and then we scored again. I'm not happy about the performance. I said afterwards it was a shit performance, but that was probably more worth it for me than anything. I was at the Brighton match though, and that was shit. Vishwa, United is a big team by name, not on pitch. We are just relegation, mid-table team. Yeah, and that's the problem, is that for 10 years post-Fergie, the Glazers, Woodward have been only banking on United's name. They haven't as like a get out of jail as the answer to everything. It was just always like, well, we're Manchester United, you know. But they found out really quickly that wasn't enough anymore. I would say they found out quickly, but we're starting to reap the consequences of them not finding that out quickly enough, because you'd think that even if you thought, okay, we're United, that should be enough, you're paying all these players so much just to get them to come to your club for this many years. Like, that shows you that it's not enough, and people could realize we're not taking things seriously. Lionel says it's the big club aspect that's killing the team. They can't cope with it. And again, there are levels to this. I wish that there was a metric for measuring things. And there is. I'm looking into it myself. You guys know I'm doing the course with the PFA. You know, I've got certificates in sports psychology and things like that, and talent identification with the PFSA and the FA. Like, I'm trying to look into it. I'm actually trying to create this sort of, I guess you could call it like a curriculum, or maybe a way of assessing as you're scouting players and recruiting players, a way to measure resilience, a tangible way to measure resilience over a period of time. Now, I've looked into a couple different things, so we'll see how that goes. But it's like the most important thing. Even scouts at the academy level will tell you, like, that's one of the things that clubs want them to look for, is how a player responds to mistakes. Some scouts will say you watch them for like another minutes after they make a mistake. Some scouts are like, no, we watch them for like 10 minutes after they make a mistake. It's very important. The paper that I'm writing right now for the PFA, like, mentality is a part of it. It's football psychology, emotional intelligence course. Like, it's huge, but it's the hardest thing to measure. So George says, I've watched Onana interviews. He is vital for the younger players, advising them on staying balanced even after scoring a hat trick or having a howler. I mean, he would be the expert on, having howlers. His mentality seems okay. You could say he's got the mentality when he's speaking in front of a camera or whatever. I'm not saying he just wants a camera. I'm saying it's very easy to look like you're collected in those situations versus on the pitch. Because when I watched, you remember Champions League last season, he was making these howlers. He was lying on the ground for several seconds. Like, Reguilon had to come pick him up. It was the same against Brighton this last month. It's just the guy, and you can tell, like, he's got this shaky look in his eye. Like, and you can tell on set pieces or any of these situations where balls are getting over the top in the box and we have to defend him. He's afraid to come off his line. He's afraid to try to get involved. He has zero confidence in those situations. And that's what I mean. It's all well and good to look confident when you're giving a presser or speaking in the dressing room even, but I need to see it on the pitch, because that's where it's going to matter. Neil Driscoll says, not been a big club for a long time. I mean, technically we are. We're still the biggest club in the world. We still have pull. I mean, we got Amorim here mid-season, leaving Champions League, leaving an unbeaten streak at Sporting to come here. We still get players at this club, but we have to start replicating that big club mentality on the pitch. These players need to start finding something within themselves, some sort of intrinsic resilience, motivation. I don't know what it is, but they need to do it. Liner says, United has always been big, just not team. Yeah. And do act like one, says Neil. Yeah. Goal says it may be better to Eriksson to retire after the season as Amorim let slip something about him being ill and his heart rate too fast. And being monitored, he may need to call it a day. Yeah, I think the thing was what Amorim said was this, he was ill and he had a fever, and then when you got a fever and you have heart issues and stuff, when your body's kind of reacting to being sick, it is something to monitor closely. I don't think it was necessarily like his heart's acting up again. I think it was that being a factor for consideration whenever something happens for him. But the whole Ajax player and heart issue thing is really weird if you guys ever want to look into it. Eriksson's like the third or fourth player in the last like 5, 6, 7 years from Ajax who's has some heart issues. It's really strange. Neil says, I think it's sad to see what United have become. It is. It is very, very sad. And a lot of this is down to the Glazers. It is down to Woodward. Some of it's on the players as well, because a lot of these same players have been doing this for years now. Leonard says on all that, yeah. Danny says Onana needs to go. Onana is just one of those things. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, we should have kept De Gea, because I think it was De Gea just didn't fit the system. Again, you guys know I filter everything through the system that we're trying to play, whether it's a new signing or not. It's not as simple to say, like, get this player, and does the player fit the system? We can all have our transfer targets, but if they don't fit the system we're trying to play, then it doesn't matter. I think that the system that Ten Hag was trying to do, and even the system that Amorim uses, does require a keeper who is good on the ball. Not necessarily with long distribution, but good on the ball to play out from the back. You've got to be able to pass the ball adequately. So that is something that needs to happen. De Gea was never going to be that. Onana, though, just is too lacking in one of the top priorities for me, again, which is that commanding of your area. I need you to make saves. That's my top priority, but I need you to command your area, and that Onana cannot do. Baxi says, Onana said he doesn't give a crap what people think of him. I think he does. I don't necessarily think he gives a crap of what people think of him. I think he just can't handle making a mistake. It's like he just lets it get. He lets his mistakes get to him. He can't shake it. I think he starts to get worried, not necessarily that people are going to think of him. I think he's worried about making another mistake. He's beating himself up for making the initial mistake, and it just builds and builds and builds. He's got to put a bow around that. Like I said, like Ted Lasso says, be a goldfish and just move on. Because all it's doing is making you more prone to making another mistake and another mistake, because you're filtering everything through that worry of what if, what if, what if. And what have I said many times? When you play the what if game, nobody wins. Lionheart says, but United came back after Tommy Doherty, so we just need some patience. Yeah, it swings and roundabouts, and I know we don't like to hear that, but it just is what it is. You've seen it in many different aspects of football. Liverpool were in the doldrums for 30 years, and now they're doing really, really well. Champions League, look at the teams that have made the Champions League finals routinely, like how that's kind of gone up and down. You know, we're starting to see more, the Spanish stuff getting back in there, where it was the English teams for a couple of years. It ebbs and flows. This is football. This is life sometimes. Liner says, we've been overachieving for years now. This shit has just caught up with us now. It is always coming. Yeah, you can overachieve, and I do think we have overachieved. Like I said yesterday, I reminded us all of what Jose Mourinho said. He said his biggest achievement was getting second with us. Like, we've overachieved a lot. Maybe Ten Hag overachieved. It's just, again, the bill comes due at some point. It does catch up to you. You do have to pay the piper, and any other cliche that I feel like throwing out there right now. But this is what happens. And unfortunately, Amorim walked into, I think, the culmination of all that. And I think that he's a young manager. He made a big step up, and maybe it is a lot. Time will tell if it's too much for him. I'm not going to say that, but he's got to find a way to manage through, because, like I said many times, manage is also a verb. You have to do stuff. Crisis management is a big part of being a football coach. So he's going to have to find a way to figure it out. He's got to find a way to balance his system with the players he has. I'm not telling him to abandon his principle. It doesn't have to be anything major. Pack the midfield a little bit, play a 3-5-2, play a 3-4-1-2, up the tempo like we saw the other day against Spurs. Those little kind of tweaks, because he has played a 3-5-2 in the past, so it's not like he's got to abandon his principles. People are going on and on saying a 3 at the back doesn't work. 3 at the back is not the problem. The problem is the players for the system. You can't just keep adapting to players and have to lower the whole footballing IQ and the whole standards and the whole tactical setup of the club to meet the players who just aren't good enough. We have to at some point push them to improve, or we have to move them on. And that's what we're trying to do right now. George says, please, do you think young managers are just hyped? and not that good, but come across a good crop of players and make a name, but can't reproduce it elsewhere with different club or players. I mean, Jose, not a young manager. Louis Van Gaal, not a young manager. They have sterling CVs. Ten Hag, not a young manager. He was 50, 51 or something when we brought him in. They're not young managers again, and those managers still struggled at the club. They're not young. It's not, to me, it's not the young manager thing. Like, I think it's just, it's a system thing. It's a tactic thing. There's a reason these players have done well on the pitch with counterattacking managers, because a lot of them can only play counterattacking football. When you bring in managers like Ten Hag, like Amorim, or like Ragnick even, who want to play a little more tactical, the players fall apart because they just don't know how to do it. Vishwa, some of the players have been hiding behind some big headline names: McFred, McGuire, Casemiro, Ollie, Mourinho, Pogba, CR7, Sanchez, etc. Now they find it difficult to carry themselves. I mean, that's a club problem, though, too, because, again, we're a club that thought that maybe bringing in Ronaldo was going to solve everything. Bringing in Pogba was going to solve everything. Remember, Casemiro wasn't first choice. We wanted Frankie de Jong. We went to Barcelona to try to get Frankie de Jong. We couldn't get him because the people in charge of those decisions were shit at their jobs. And then we panicked mid-August, brought in Casemiro, who had no preseason, had to get up to speed. That's why we played McTominay for the first several weeks. It wasn't that Casemiro was bad, but again, Ten Hag wasn't given a preseason. It's just the way it works. Managers need a preseason. Leinart says, do you think Ronaldo's mom also calls him CR7? I have no idea. We know that Piers Morgan does, doesn't he? After he wipes his chin. Anyway, let's move on to some transfer news here, because we got a little bit more to cover. Thank you guys for getting involved. We're really having a good conversation here. Don't forget to hit that like button for me, please. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, because we got some transfer news. So we're linked with another striker who we've been linked with before, but we got from Fresh Reports. So apparently, if United do fail in our alleged pursuit of Victor Gyökeres or Victor Osimhen, Dean Jones reports that the next name on our list is Porto's Samu. Now, it's not the first time we've been linked to him. If you guys remember, he did score against us in the Europa League earlier this season. 18 goals, 3 assists so far in all comps. He is just 20, so if people are getting impatient with Højlund or even Xerxes to an extent, I doubt that a 20-year-old striker is going to fill anybody with a whole lot of confidence. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying he's 20. He's like the same age as Højlund was when we got him, so let's just chill out. He does have a massive release clause, Samu, so we'd have to work some crazy financial magic if he is a target. According to Dean Jones, he is. I forget what his release clause. I think it was like 80-something million. Again, we're not going to pay a release clause. If we were in for someone like that, we'd have to do some negotiating to get a price lower than that, or we'd have to pay more than that and amortize that over a number of years. That's just the way we are right now. We can't afford to pay 85 million on one player. That's just ridiculous. So we'll see how it goes. Sticking with the strikers, though, Turkish outlet Sabah and Sport Witness are also claiming that both United and Arsenal are tracking Yusuf El Nasiri, who now plays for Fenerbahce after leaving Sevilla recently. I liked El Nasiri a lot at Sevilla. At that time, a couple years ago, with the way we were playing and stuff, I thought he would be perfect for United. He's so great in the air. He's so silky in the ball. He's such a good poacher. I really like him. He's 27, so he does fit the profile of the kind of striker I think we need to be looking for right now. He's prolific. He's experienced. He can teach the young strikers a couple things. 23 goals in all comps. Now, again, it's a rumor, but I like in this series. Again, the problem is simply changing a striker is not going to make a difference right now. So, Lionhearts is laughing. Yeah, you guys know my thoughts on Piers Morgan. That guy's an absolute piece of shit. George. Andreas Villas-Boas a couple years ago at Porto was looking like the next Mourinho, winning the Europa League with Costinha, Hulk, Falcao, etc. Then moved to Chelsea, flopped. Spurs flopped, and now car racing his dream. Yeah, it is what it is. You never know how it's going to work out. You hope for the best, and you make the best of what you do, and hopefully, you get back. But again, we've seen a lot of managers struggle. There are a lot of people who could say, Thomas Tuchel when he won the Champions League with Chelsea. Roberto Di Matteo won the Champions League with Chelsea. Can anyone tell me what Roberto Di Matteo is doing right now? I mean, it's hard to predict. You do your best, and that's all you can do is recruitment. You look at the data, you look at what you see, and then you hope for the best. I mean, Nicola Pepe, how much did Arsenal pay for Nicola Pepe? Again, can anyone tell me where Nicola Pepe is these days? Exactly. Samu says, Danny says, Samu, another risk. He is a risk. You know, you are going to get, especially for that price. I don't think we're going to in for any 20-year-old at that price, personally. But Danny says, good player, but why did Atletico sell him? I mean, they did sell Cunha as well. So there's all sorts of reasons players are sold. You know, did City really need to sell Julian Alvarez? Probably not. They got a lot of money for him. He's a very good player. But that money, and this is how PSR works, you're getting more for selling the player. You get to count all of that up at once. So how much did they sell Alvarez for? Like 90? Was that what it was? They get to count all that 90 all at once PSR wise. But any players they go and buy, if they went and bought like 5 players, they could split that up and only count the initial payment as part of that, and they could still have money to work with. This is why City bought 4 players in January, and clubs like Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle United, we didn't do shit because we don't sell players because we suck at it. Lionheart says, good point, Danny. Yeah, I mean, again, who knows why Atletico sold players, why anybody. I mean, they sold Griezmann, and now Griezmann's back. It's money, and the Griezmann deal actually made them money. Like, sometimes it is a financial decision, and it just is what it is. Anytime that somebody wants to buy a player for more than you value, you sell them. That's just good business. Rasta Stocks, welcome back. We're in the end game now. All right, Doctor Strange. Good to see you again. Moving on. So Ekrem Kanor, remember Ekrem Kanor? We've been talking about him a lot recently. He's the one who reported on our interest in Rodrigo Mora at Porto, who I really like. I was watching him the other day against Roma. Did really, really well. As well as Kastel Lukeba at RB Leipzig, who's a left-sided center back who looks like he wants to leave this summer. We do need a left-sided center back. Like I said, we spoke earlier in the stream about that video that United View post. They had a surgeon come in and talk about Lisandro Martinez's injury. He'll be out probably 6 to 9 months, so we do need a left-sided center back. Olivier Bashali for the win, please. Anyway, Ekrem Kanor reported this morning that United are tracking Adam Wharton at Crystal Palace, with the plan being to have him come in and potentially replace Christian Eriksen, potentially even Casemiro as well in that midfield. Now, Eriksen's going to leave as a free agent, like we spoke about a couple times. And despite Casemiro's recent insistence that he wants to see out his contract at United, again, who can blame him? He's making bank. And Casemiro's been linked to a number of clubs. We know that we're also trying to get him off the books as well, so we'll see how that one goes. But Wharton was highly rated by everybody last year. He was class last year. Burst onto the scene, very young, good midfielder. Good. He kind of reminds me of like a Matt Wiefer kind of player. A lot of United fans were clamoring for us to sign him. They wanted to see him and Kobbie Mainoo as our midfield for the next decade. He has missed pretty much the first half of this season, though, with a groin issue. He missed like 17, 18 matches. He is now back. Obviously, he did come on against us when Crystal Palace beat us. So we'll see how he bounces back from his injury. Groins are rough. I did my groin when I turned 30, and I couldn't play for a couple months. And even now, I didn't need surgery or anything, but like, even now, if I run around too much or something, I still feel it for a couple days, a little bit afterwards. It does suck, but it is what it is. Lionheart says, fingers crossed. Yeah, we'll see, man. Danny says, too expensive, Wharton. Hackney at Borough, just as good, half the price. My guy, Danny, this is why I love you, man. You guys know I am straight up riding the Hayden Hackney train until he goes someplace else and my heart is broken and I take 2 weeks off to mourn that move. I love me some Hayden Hackney. The dude is exactly what we need from a deep line playmaker. He's physical. He's got an excellent passing range. And I'm not just talking about, he can pick a long ball. The dude plays these incisive through balls from his own defensive third all the way up. He got an assist a few weeks ago for doing that. From deep in his own half, through ball, took out like 4 players, found his striker who scored. And the guy's like 22 and he's already like a captain at Middlesbrough. He reminds me a lot of like Ruben Neves, captaining at a young age, plays that general role, can pick a pass, and he's physical. Hackney is my ideal signing for that midfield. Danny says, learning from Carrick too. Yeah, we need to utilize and exploit that Carrick connection and maybe offer him a player on loan or like a youngster, or even offer him just a straight up youngster to have if that's what it takes. Harry Amos maybe can probably go there. I don't know, but let him take somebody on loan and a youngster, because if I would move heaven and earth to get Hayden Hackney. The guy is absolute mustard. I love him. Speaking of players, I would move heaven and earth to get. Again, this is one of those pipe dream signings. But again, this is a player I would move heaven and earth to get for us. I saw a report yesterday that Xavi Simons could be available for around 85 million euros this summer. That's the asking price. Honestly, right now, if you put a gun to my head, I'm selling Bruno. I'm getting Xavi Simons because this kid is insane. He'd be an instant. He would walk into a starting 11 for most clubs. He would instantly improve us in one of those number 10 roles. 10 goals, 13 assists right now in all comps last season. He's already on 6 goals, 5 assists this season, but he's played less than half those games. He had a little bit of an ankle issue that saw him miss a few games, so it's going to hurt the numbers, but the kid is class. I've wanted him at United for years. When he was at Eindhoven and he was doing bits, the guy is straight up class. Just go get it done, man. Sell Bruno, get in Xavi Simons. The guy, he'll be here for several years, and you're gonna make money on him. Like that's just the way it is. George says, I don't like Wharton as I think he's a hype job, too expensive. Oh, he's definitely too expensive. He'll definitely be too expensive. And we know Palace don't want to sell too many players. They didn't want to sell Elise last summer. It was going to be either Elise, Gueye, or Eze, and they only sold Elise. Now Eze wanted to leave, so I'm betting this summer you're probably going to see one or both of Eze and Mark Gueye go as well. I wouldn't mind Mark Gueye. I do prefer a left footer though, but it is what it is. But yeah, Wharton would be expensive. They're going to do everything they can to hold on to Wharton. They're probably going to see him as one that they're going to build around. But he is still young, like you say, so we'll see how he does. Leonard says, Wharton, Dibbling, Hackney, these are proper transfer targets. I love Hayden Hackney. Dibbling, very, very good. Might be worth a punt depending on how expensive he is once Southampton get relegated, but I do like Dibbling as well. Chris Rigg, I watched a little of Chris Rigg yesterday as well. Sunderland played Leeds. Did not beat Leeds. Leeds won thanks to Pascal Strout, who scored a late header to win. Big up Darko, good to see you again, my friend. Rob says, whatever happened to Richard Ruiz? Did he go somewhere? Who's Richard Ruiz? You talking about Ricardo Rios, the guy from was he at Palmeiras? Is that who you're talking about? Is he Colombian? George says Hackney could be like Nico Gonzalez at City. He could be. Hackney is like the Zubamendi kind of role. He's so good, guys. Technical, passing range, plus awareness. And he's physical, man. He's a leader. Hackney is everything we need in this midfield right now. Vishwa says, would you consider Ndidi in case Leicester got relegated? I did do a video on transfer targets from relegation sides a couple weeks back, and I did list Ndidi. I've liked Ndidi for years. I think my picks from Leicester were, was it Ndidi and El Canus, or was it El Canus and who was their winger? I forgot his name already now. This was like a month ago. So, but yeah, I have liked Ndidi for a while. I think he's good experience. He's a good leader in there. I think he could do a really good job in there for the next few years before he probably eventually goes to the Saudi league. But I've always liked Ndidi though. He's so good. Rob says that's the guy. Yeah, Ricardo Rios. Yeah, it's gone quiet again. You know, as most things are when United are linked. If we get linked, there's hype, and then it usually goes quiet until another name pops up. Or until that player does well in a random game, and then the media grabs hold of it again. Rasta says, I could see us getting 40 points. It's going to be difficult. Would get 14 games left. Europa League is all, and we have to win Europa League if we want any hope of European football, or the FA Cup if we want to get Europa League again. But if, again, Adidas are going to cut some of the funds if we keep failing at this. We might see us line up in like some Umbro or some Castor or something kits in the next couple of years, because we are just getting pummeled here. Danny says they were looking crazy money. I think Rob, when we came knocking for Rios, yeah, I think wasn't the price like 40-50 million for Rios, or maybe it might have even been 60. And this is a guy who used to play street footy, who was picked up as well. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying like the prices being put around are crazy. But Xavi Simons has been a dream of mine for a couple of years now. I think he building a spine, get a good left-sided center back, get a new keeper, or stick with Binder and Vitek for next year. Get Hayden Hackney, get Xavi Simons, and go get like Jonathan David on a free or something, and you've got an excellent 5 players, an excellent spine, and I think that works for me. That might be my summer right there. Jonathan David or Gyökeres, Xavi Simons, Hayden Hackney, center back, and then just try to do something different with the keeper situation at some point. Danny says, we'll be back to Umbro. Yeah, I mean, wouldn't surprise me. We do have one of the most lucrative kit deals in football, but again, we have to keep playing like a team that deserves that if we want to keep taking advantage of that funds. Because again, we are the biggest club. We'll get another kit deal, but at the same time, you have to deliver on our end, and we're not doing that. Kappa kits. Oh man, bring back, man. Can you imagine United in a Kappa kit? That'd be crazy. I do like the old Umbros from the late '90s with the Umbro thing all down the sleeve. That one's pretty legit. But yeah, the Kappa will be interesting. I always forget about Kappa. Goals says, Ndidi is too old now, getting injury prone now. What is he, 28? He had a little bit of an injury last year or the year before. What I like about Ndidi is he really showed a different side to his game in the championship. He started playing a little bit more box-to-box, a little bit more advanced. He's still a deeper physical guy. But I do like Ndidi. I'm not saying he'd be my first transfer target on the list. I'm saying if relegation sides, he'd just be one of the ones that I'd choose. I chose a couple from Southampton, a couple from Ipswich as well. So, and then in closing things out, there was a story in the Athletic today from Adam Crafton saying that United could add a United States leg to their preseason tour. So we know that we do the preseason tour. It is a money grab. I don't like friendlies at all. I'm not going to begrudge the fans from other parts of the world, including the U.S. who get to see United play. Because it's a great experience for a lot of them. It's the only time they're going to get to see a lot. And so I don't begrudge anybody for that. The tickets are crazy expensive. And, it's just more often than not, you're not seeing the starting team. It's mostly youngsters and fringe players, which is fine. You still get to see them and stuff. But I think we're already going to Malaysia. I think we might be already going to Hong Kong. We do stand to make a bit of money. I think it's like $8 million from the tour. So you're getting something. You guys know I don't like friendlies, whether it's international, whether it's preseason. I hate friendlies. We saw a lot of injuries, Euro injury, Dangor injury. Like, I hate friendlies, and I think that I'm not the only person who feels that way. We know that managers probably don't like them as well. We know Louis van Gaal did not like all the travel in the preseason. I think he canceled some of it. I just don't. Does anybody out? Do you guys go to any friendlies when they're in your neck of the woods? I don't know where anyone lives. I think some of the cities they were mentioning were like Atlanta, Chicago, and something this summer. So I haven't gone to any of the friendlies here in a while. Justin and I had tickets to go to United versus Real Madrid when they were in Ann Arbor, but he ended up going to student teach, so we didn't end up going to that one. I did the Chelsea Real Madrid one a couple years after that at U of M in Ann Arbor, because his brother is a big Chelsea fan, so we all did that as well. Again, I'm not being rhetorical when I ask if you guys go to summer friendlies. I just honestly want to know if that's something you guys are into or not. So let me know. Danny says Club World Cup might go into summer. Yeah, they used to do the International Champions Cup. That was the thing that they did here. They don't do that anymore. They stopped doing this one. I think there were some complications last year. I forget what this one's called. It's just like the summer, some bullshit. I don't know, but a friendly by any other name is always a friendly. You can call it Champions Cup. You can call it this. You can call it the Nations League. It's all friendlies. That's how I feel. I can't stand them. Lionel says, I went to the Amsterdam tournament once. Nice. That's awesome. Good deal. Lionhearts. Yeah. The under-21s lost yesterday for anyone who watched that. I think the under-18s were playing this afternoon. I almost thought about doing a watch-along, and then I forgot that I've got a little phone call I got to do later, so I'm not going to be able to do that, unfortunately. So, but yeah, the under-18s play Wolves at 2 today, if anyone wants to watch that. And then obviously there's a bit more Champions League going on today as well. Champions League still close. Feyenoord still just up 1-0 against Milan. Atalanta down 1-2 to Club Brugge. Bayern up 2-1 at Celtic, and then Benfica are up 1-0 against Monaco. So it still could swing either way today for some of these matchups. So keep an eye on those. And then tomorrow's just Wednesday. Wow. I'm going to be watching the Madrid City match with Justin tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that one. Fishwest is not a big fan of those friendlies. Yeah, I'm not a fan of friendlies at all. I don't like them. Whenever I hear the word friendly, all my mind thinks is injuries. So it is what it is. Let me check the news real quick before I let you guys get out of here, just to see if anything's popped up while we've been live. Be sure to hit that like button for me. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new. I don't see anything going on here. Don't see any new news, unfortunately. So it is what it is. Liner says, "I hope Celtic can do it." Yeah, we always hope. There's always a little part of you that hopes for the underdog, the David and Goliath. It's going to be interesting if City or Real Madrid don't make it. The Champions League is a lot of big clubs are not automatically qualified, and so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But we'll see. Danny also, he's back in your pick, man. It's always nice to see that, right? You want to see the smaller teams doing well. Obviously, you have to earn it. This is why we were against the Super League, right? You want to earn it, but it is what it is. But in any case, that is going to be it for me, you guys. I got a few things I got to go take care of, and then Champions League later on. So if anything does pop up throughout the day, any major breaking news, of course, I will be back to hear your opinions and your takes on all that. But until then, thank you guys for stopping by. Keep a lookout on those transfer news and all the United news. Keep a lookout on the channel. Hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss out on anything. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you to everybody who stopped by. Cheers, Danny. Oh, Danny, you recommended some Irish tea. Did you have a specific thing you wanted me to try? You guys know sometimes I drink tea on the afternoon shows. Usually it's just Earl Grey with a bit of milk. But if you have any Irish tea that you recommend, Danny, let me know. I will give it a shot because I am a tea guy typically in the afternoon when I'm at home. So anyway, thank you guys. I will see you on the next one. Enjoy your day. Take care. Ta.